director of the recently released Oppenheimer and also director of the Dark Knight trilogy, Christopher Nolan, was recently asked about his thoughts on Batman. And instead of talking about the Batman, he talked about on why he's not going to tell anybody his thoughts on the Batman. So once again, this comes at us from Chris Nolan, who recently had an interview with Variety. And they wanted to ask him about his feelings about the current status of comic book films, his current status and what he thinks about Marvel Studios and where they're at today, and of course, if he can talk about the Batman since it's the first follow-up to his Dark Knight trilogy. And he said no. He said he's not going to talk about the Batman, he's not going to express his feelings on it, and he's not going to address any other comic book film. And he said he has a reason for this. He doesn't want to take spotlight away from these films and say something that could be seen as negative, but also he doesn't want to suddenly start talking about comic book movies and then everybody is fixated on his opinion on X, Y, and Z and not why he's here to actually do the interview. So he doesn't want to shine spotlight on negativity and the things that honestly have nothing to do with an interview about Oppenheimer. And Chris Nolan continues to be the director that I've been saying for the last couple of years has become the most respectful director in Hollywood. Never trying to take shots, respecting everybody, no matter what type of film you're putting out. He admits it's a film, you do you, I'll do me over here, and I'm not going to talk bad or good about anything because what's the point? Because that's just going to make headlines that start a war. Honestly, I wish more directors were like this. Unfortunately, they're not, and Chris Nolan is, well, one of a kind, clearly. So whatever he thinks of the Batman, who cares? Honestly, who cares? He could hate it. Chris Nolan could legit come out here being like, wow, they went too realistic. Man, I don't even want that. Because they did. They did. It's more realistic than his trilogy, which is kind of shocking, but they did it. Or he could say, well, I didn't like X. And suddenly it gets overblown to Chris Nolan hates DC. Because that's what would happen. That is what would happen. So, good on him. Really, really good on him.